Kick it. Hey guys, welcome back to Tactically Misguided. I'm Pat.
I'm Lobo.
And we got Chris with us today. This is going to be episode 25. Last up on the casting couch. What an honor it is. You've been good to us.
Let's do this.
Before we dive any deeper,
Get it? Dive deeper.
Shut the fuck up. This isn't the Lost Billionaire submarine.
Oh, too soon.
God. Before we dive any deeper, quick shout out to our sponsorship for this episode, SARC. Be sure after you finish watching this, liking this video, subscribing to the channel, liking all the other fucking videos. Head over to the link in the description for them. Go check out their new drops. They've got 2 new tank tops that they just recently dropped. Most notably is the Send It one. I gotta add that to my extensive fucking collection of SAPTAC shit because that's all I wear now, clearly. Aside from that, you tried Bulkhead Energy for the first time.
I tried Bulkhead Energy for the first time. So one of the things the military teaches you is how to basically survive on dip, hatred, beef jerky, and energy drinks. I tried this. I wasn't expecting much, to be honest with you. I gotta tell you, it definitely blew my mind. And not in a caffeine energy sense. Like, anybody can do caffeine. This actually has nootropics in it. And so I was sitting there having a long discussion with a detective, and I was reaching so fucking deep into my vocabulary duffel bag, if you will.
Something that's new.
I got to tell you guys, try it. It's awesome. You can feel the energy, but the nootropic substances that are in it, it has brain steam, and definitely your mental acuity and your ability to just function.
Please tell me this is on the can.
No, it's not on the can. I'm just saying. But the cool thing is, SAPTAC owns it, veteran owned, veteran operated, and it's not filled with bullshit. So it's natural stuff in it. But again, the brain.
You're not gonna get thyroid cancer from Red Bull.
I'll get prostate cancer, but that's a different story.
All right. Aside from that, moving on with the meat and potatoes of the episode. So, Chris, tell us a little about yourself. Go ahead and introduce us.
All right. That was a long sigh.
I'm already wrapping my head around what you were saying. They actually, the Bulkhead, they had an interesting promotion already at the PX. Their marketing department is great. So they brought in. They're bringing in a bunch of people already on base. So it's actually pretty good. I've already had interactions with them. Anyway, I'm Chris. Been in the Navy for 16 years and currently a SARC, which is a Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman, with 2nd Raider Battalion.
Oh damn! I thought you were 3rd. I don't know. I get my Raider battalions confused.
1, 2, or 3. You got a 33% chance of success there.
I was half right. Not half. I'm really bad at math too. We haven't picked up on that yet. So we're gonna start with a really stupid, basic ass question. What made you choose the Navy? Kind of speak up a little bit.
It's got to be the uniforms. It's got to be the bell bottoms.
So these things can pick up.
So, yeah, although the Cracker Jack uniform was appealing, I actually I walked into the Army recruiter as my first go. I had a good friend who was a 101st Airborne kind of Pathfinder dude, Ranger Tab, and he convinced me to kind of go to an Army recruiter. So. I was getting hounded pretty much from the Army side, bunch of buddies. My mom was hounding me to not pick an infantry job, so I essentially was convinced and coerced into being a medic. So walked into the Army recruiter to be a Ranger medic initially. They didn't have a spot for me. They tried to make me an electrician after I took the ASVAB, and I pretty much told them I'm gonna walk right across the hallway to the Navy if they don't stop dicking around. He kept doing it, so I went right up to the Navy recruiter and I said, I already knew what a corpsman was. It's like, when can I go? And he's like, 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, you name it.
Whenever the fuck you want to.
And that's how I joined the Navy.
Fuck yeah.
So you wound up going to be a corpsman.
Yeah.
When you did that, how did you wind up? Well, tell us a little bit about when you came to the fleet to do the corpsman portion of it. A lot of people don't understand what a corpsman is. They think Marines have their own medics. Can you touch on what the corpsmen do for the Marine Corps, and then how you basically found SARC?
Yeah. So, all right. So where to start? So the Marine Corps is pretty much an all-infantry rifleman only branch. So Navy and Marine Corps team. It's been around for quite some time. The Navy is required to offer services, especially in the medical, pretty much the support sector, which is the medical and the religious, and some of the other supporting entities that USMC is not.
Like massive transport.
Yeah, transport, all this big green things in the ocean.
Those big things.
So one of those entities is the medical personnel within the platoons, within the companies, within all sections of the Marine Corps. So that is the corpsman, which is one of the largest ratings in the Navy, just because of the amount of entities it has to support. Has to support the FMF, has to support the hospital, and like the entire like U.S. fleet, and then like DHA, which is now like the overarching like Navy, DoD like medical like system.
Yeah.
So as a corpsman, you can get slotted in a lot of different jobs, everything from, tracks you guys were in, already on the FMF side, dental techs, hospital techs, there's I think somewhere in the neighborhood around 60 to 70 different, what you guys would say, MOSs.
Rates.
Just for, it's going to be rates for the Navy. NECs just for the corpsman rating. So there's a lot of like broad career paths that you can choose. One of those is going to be USMC, like reconnaissance corpsman, and then now with the creation of MARSOC, it's going to be still a SARC. We haven't fully transitioned to that like kind of joint thing, but essentially you're getting a reconnaissance corpsman or a reconnaissance SOIDC, or reconnaissance IDC, which is independent duty corpsman, attached to all those like special forces or soft entities.
So like big picture, corpsmen are broken down into, we'll call it two halves: blue side and green side. Blue side is overwhelmingly like clinicians. They're the Navy side. Green side, FMF. Smaller than the blue side, and then you have to take into account the actual dudes that are going out, as he was saying, as the individuals on the team level. Of that, there's even fewer than that, and then you're going up towards probably the most elite portion of the Navy, which is the Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsman. So you did a couple tours as a corpsman with line companies?
Yeah, so I came in, I didn't even like consider SARC, just kind of came in. This was 05 when I wanted to come in. I kind of came in 06 and then didn't make it to boot camp till 07.
It's still the surge. That's the surge era.
So I watched Fallujah on the news and understood what a corpsman was and doing what they're doing. So went to Corps School thinking that I was going to go to the FMF because that was where like the big push and the surge and all the like combat replacements were going, especially on the corpsman side. However, I ended up catching orders to 29 Palms Naval Hospital, so straight out of the gate, just
fucking the stumps, baby.
Just got the stumps.
You got the real Marine treatment. You got fucked right out of the gate.
You got that green weenie, and well, I guess for you guys it'd be like half green, half blue weenie right up the ass.
So you wind up at 29 Palms. What was your first deployment?
First deployment, as soon as I got to the hospital, I was pretty much kicking down my Master Chief's door trying to get an Iraq deployment. So I tried for a couple. I was required to do 6 months at the hospital before they let me go. I finally caught an IA deployment in 08 with 112, so a RD unit out of Hawaii.
Hell yeah.
And then went to Ramadi in 08. So that was my first FMF tour, even though I was still kind of attached to the hospital.
So, do you have a story from Ramadi that you'd like to throw out there?
Even the funny ones, because I'll be honest,
I'm all about like the funny shit.
90% of it is either Corpman, like somebody's hurt, or some dude comes up and he goes, bro, I need you to look at something.
Okay, stop fucking talking about me, all right? Okay. That happened a lot with me, okay?
No, you got a memorable story, one that sticks out. It can be funny. We'll try and keep it from being like terrible, but like anything funny or something that just like you'll be 80 years old, sitting around a campfire with family and be like, well, this one fucking time.
These fucking dumbass Marines.
They all start that way.
That's where I was introduced to the retardation. So yeah, I guess I'll tell that story. I was brand new to the platoon. We just got there. I think it was we had to been like 3 or 4 weeks in the country. So we just got out of Riptol. Doing a bunch of gear prep on the MRAPs. I can't remember who it is. Some dude gets a bright idea that he thinks he can start petitioning or start like getting a pool of money to drink Windex. I got roped into this knowing that obviously Windex is toxic. So now they're bidding against me because I'm paying him not to do that while they're simultaneously bidding it higher. So I essentially ended up paying $40+ just to have my Marine not drink Windex, so I didn't have to actually do anything that day besides clean trucks.
What the fuck? And I make fun of fucking college kids eating Tide Pods. And we were doing... I'm sorry, I am disgraced.
The ballistic glass on a lot of these armored vehicles does require a different type of cleaner. And I know this because when we had to drain all the fluids to send these things to fucking Australia, that was one of the things our motor T guy was talking about. And I was like, bro, I thought you could just fucking spit on it or whatever. But apparently it has to have a certain alcohol mixture or it'll fuck up the ballistic glass. So I can 100% understand that a Marine probably thinks, oh, it's something different. I can drink that. And you're just like,
got alcohol.
You're gonna go fucking blind. So you did like field med training to do that to get to FMF. You get to to your unit, and then you did another deployment as a corpsman, right?
Yeah. So after came back from that deployment, went back to the hospital. Then I transferred over to 3-4. Then went and did the 2011 deployment with them to Afghan.
Where's 3-4 out of?
29 Palms.
29, okay.
So they're the bastard battalion of 7th Reg.
Yeah.
And they've had their flag rolled up and,
Yeah. Well, so you wind up doing that deployment. Did you have any besides like the Marine portion of it? How did you wind up figuring out you wanted to go SARC?
It wasn't until about, I guess after that deployment, I just realized infantry wasn't it. After two tours with infantry, not so much on the Marine side. I love my Marines. I love my platoons. I had a great time. I was just kind of looking around the BS like, I don't know if I actually want to be a chief and just keep doing this. I was like, so I just started looking into programs. To be completely honest, I stumbled into kind of being a SARC. I knew that it was hard. I knew that it was like a whole package ordeal. I just got tasked to go to WTI to like kind of turn over because I was getting ready for to go on the 2013 deployment with them. So I was at WTI. My chief ended up emailing me or texting me that there's a recon screener because I was, one of the studs of the battalion. Wanted to go do that and didn't realize thought it was a recon screener. Thought I would just get a piece of paper, maybe do a package, become an IDC, something like that. Turns out I went to a MARSOC, first MSOB, homegrown screener. So that was my introduction to MARSOC. Did that screener, passed, and then was fully expecting to kind of like do this after a 2013 deployment back to Afghan. And I just, no package, no nothing, got cut, orders to the support staff of first MSOB. Checked in there, and they were like, what are you here to do? And I'm like, I think I'm pipeline, I'm not sure. So
then the start of being a roper before you're a roper.
yeah, so then, well, so the homegrown program was different.
At Flores, I saw you guys.
Yeah, so
you
recon.
guys got treated like dog shit.
So
I'm not even lying.
So recon had like the RIP program back in the day. Now it's God, I don't even know. I barely know what they're doing in BRC now. This is BRC and then BRPC, and then MART, which is like Marines awaiting training. So there's, back then, I think MART just came online. However, we were running kind of our own rope program, which was separate from RIP. So just at first MSOB. So went through that for like 2 weeks, and then essentially went to MART for a week and started BRC. Coming straight.
He's being very humble, because what happens is he shows up before the pre-course. So BRC is like the show. That's where you go to the basic reconnaissance course. Yeah. There's a whole fuck ton of physical activities. Huh?
The basic riders course.
They fucked up and used 2 acronyms. One means basic reconnaissance, and the other one means basic riders.
So before that, there was it's like all my homies a lot of them went to ARS. But ARS and BRC was just the different coasts.
Yeah.
But what would happen is if you were a Marine, you would show up, you'd take an NDOC, like a screener, then they would put you in MART, and then you would go in from MART, they would weed people out, they just haze the fuck out of them, then you would go to BRC when a class picked up. Well, if you were a roper, and what they did at first was you got there, they introduced you to it, you already had to do a screener, you got fucked with, they taught you a bunch of stuff, and they're like, you're going to get your shit kicked in when you start MART or the pre-course or RIP. And then if you get past that again, then you go to BRC. So out of, let's say 100, we'll call it 100 dudes, you're probably going to have 5 that actually wind up getting to BRC. They weed, a lot of people get weeded out, and it's a very small community. He's being very humble about it. So you wind up, you go to BRC.
So BRC, man, there's the joke that there are smart classes and then there are strong classes. So I ended up being in a strong class. Our class nickname was Dumb and Tough, TUFF. That's what we had on our rock garden there, because we started out with like 65, and I think we graduated with only like 17 original members. So
it's like that fucking that Jackass theme song. Fucking if you're gonna be dumb, you gotta be tough.
Yeah, that was straight up our class. I had a blast in BRC. I loved every single dude.
Still in Coronado, right?
So it's partly
Amphib is in
partly in Pendleton. They've changed it up now. They've switched back kind of the different phases, 3 phases. So now Amphib is your Coronado phase. That's, however, now back at the end. So phase 1 and 2 is going to be in Pendleton. Phase 3 is in Coronado.
So you wind up. So you've been a corpsman. You've done 2 deployments. You go through the roper process. You finally make it to BRC. You fucking survive that when like dozens of people are weeded out. And so what happens on graduation? You go back to first?
Yeah, so because I was part of the homegrown, I directly belonged to first, and they sent me to each course one by one. And so I came back with the cert and said, next one, please. Essentially.
Please, sir. Can I have some more?
Now, did you go, so they've done a lot of weird shit with the SARC program. So you did BRC. Did you wind up doing dive and dive med, or did you wind up going to SOCM at Bragg?
So, yeah, the big initiative in, like, I think it started 09 and then into 2013, I think is when they kind of axed the homegrown program. They completely did away with, like, the order of stuff. They even put in potential candidates to go directly into SOCM, so they bypassed BRC. So a lot of the guys I ended up screening with went to SOCM first. They had hard orders, they were going through SOCM. I was waiting because I lost SOCM seat, so I ended up with BRC. So the order of the pipeline, I just lay out the whole pipeline. So it's going to be BRC, and then typically after BRC, you'll go to the insert schools, and then SOCM. and then now it's not separated anymore because SARCs essentially have been eliminated. They used to be 2 separate NECs. We have combined them all into one, so now we're all FMF Recon IDCs or the SOIDC, Special Operator Independent Duty Corpsmen. So now it can be broken up, kind of the flavor of the day, depending on like order seats. So you can end up going to jump first, you can end up going to dive first, you can end up going to SOCM first. It just kind of depends. However, you're going to hit that whole pipeline. So that's the way it is today. The way I went through was completely mixed up. So I went to BRC, came back, checked in to first, went back out to SOCM, came back, and then I got put into a team. So I got put into my first team in Alpha Company, and then I, during the workup, had to go do like jump school, SEER school, and then a deployment. Then I come back, do dive school, dive med. So there was a couple of the homegrown. We just kind of had to mix in our pipeline in between operational commitments within the team. So just being the ATP card holder, which is your SOCM cert,
advanced trauma effect,
the advanced trauma practitioner. So that is like your SOCM, your short course for the 18 Delta. You need that technically you don't need BRC, you kind of do need assessment selection. So BRC, that, and SEER school are like your mandatory. So once you get those, at least for me on the homegrown side, back when that program exists, they cut me right to Alpha as a 8404 line corpsman that was filling a SARC role.
Well, so you wind up at, so you went to jump school eventually in this giant thing. When you got to Benning,
giant fuckery.
When you got to Benning, were you like, holy shit, the Marines aren't the most retarded people?
Yeah.
3 weeks, right? Do they still do like, it's like ground week, tower week, jump week?
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of my CSO buddies were catching orders to, what was that? The NSW program.
The NPC, Naval Parachute Course.
The NPC. So there, I was getting, just like, oh, you got to go to NPC. I was like, well, unfortunately, when you are SARC, you have to go to airborne because it's part of the pipeline. So I got to go do the full airborne experience, and yeah, it was quite the experience. Luckily, I wasn't the highest ranking. I had a gunny who was from first MSOB, so he had to take like stick leader and all this stuff, and so I was able to kind of skate away from a lot of those responsibilities. But yeah, just
there's a thing I hadn't heard in a while. Skate.
Well, so one of the interesting things about the operational commitment is what he's talking about, is because when we were in a war footing, they were sending dudes, you would go out and you wouldn't have all the capabilities that a team required. So you would have a sniper suite, but you may only have one sniper. You would have a jump team, but only half the dudes were like free. When I say jump team, I mean free fall team. Only about half of them have been to MMPC, which is the free fall team. Now, one of the benefits of not going to NPC, the Naval Parachute Course, 2 weeks, 1 week static line, 1 week free fall. First off, it's a little bit dangerous because the people that graduate from there have a gross misunderstanding about how static line operations work versus the absolute abortion that is Benning, where you're doing 3 weeks of falling and gravel. There's a happy medium between the two, but if you go to NPC, you can't be a jump master, which means the team chief that is like, hey, I have a jump team, I need my guys to come to my team, and I need them to have career progression within our insert method, meaning I need guys that can go to jump master. So a lot of these CSOs are like, bro, I went to NPC, it was great, it's 2 weeks, and it's like, congratulations, nobody's sending you to free fall because you have to be a static line jump master to be a free fall jump master. And the Army and the Navy got into a huge pissing match over that. So it kind of sucks, but the way you wound up doing it built character. I guarantee you look at some of the new guys that come in, they're like, okay, when do I get to do this? And you probably look at them and go, bitch, you have no idea how hard it is to get to where you're at.
Yeah, I just sent one of my juniors. He checked in right out of the pipeline and gave him free fall seat about 3 months after checking in.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, there's There's no angst, but there's definitely like, wow, you didn't do really any time. the way some of the other people in the past had to like kind of earn that free fall seat.
Well, to get to be a SARC, to get to do SOCM, I was at Q course and I saw a bunch of dudes going through it, and they were Rangers, some were SARCs, most of them were Green Berets. They had some like civil affair nerds and stuff, but at the time it was 92 weeks, and if I remember correctly, EMS or EMT.
Yeah, EMT.
EMT. You guys did that in 30 days. It was a month.
Yep.
And then you had to learn. At one point, it was 200 medications in 1 week, and then by month 3, you were already a paramedic. I think, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So they've changed the paramedic program a little bit, but yeah. So the first thing you do is the EMT B, which is the basic. That's like pretty much out of the gate. That's your first block. They're set up in a bunch of different blocks, and the SOCM, the version I went through, was a while ago, and they kind of adjust like their course every so often. So some of the stuff that I went through definitely no longer exist today. As far as the medication, yeah, that was a 3-week block. I think now it's got an actual a little bit longer like timeline associated to it, say more like 5-6 weeks. So that, yeah, remembering Soup SOCM, there's like about 200 tests.
Yep.
Total, and so you fail one test, you essentially get a second go. After that, you go up to a board and they decide your fate. So you have to repeat this process 200 times and just never screw it up.
Well, so, and it's impressive because like EMTB in the civilian world is 6 months, sometimes a year, depending on if you do like the whole thing or a class, and you're cramming that into 30 days. So when you look at it, it's 92 weeks, or your pipeline essentially, that's just for that portion. That's not including dive, jump, dive med, any of the other add-ons. When you put it all together, that's like almost 2.5 years of just schooling.
Yeah.
So when you get a dude that's a SARC and he comes to your team, he's physically fit and he's smarter than everybody else. Between him and the EOD tech.
Well, corpsmen were always the smarter ones anyways.
Yeah.
For the most part. Then slamming beers.
Like, one of my favorite things is that a SARC can literally tell people to fuck off. That was probably my favorite thing to see in a team, is they're like, oh, you can't do that. And it's like, no, I'm in the Navy. Fuck off. They're like, you need to cut your hair. No, it's not happening, bro.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, with that, I will say, so there are certain things as a SARC we like to mommy and daddy the Navy and the Marine Corps. You know, we're going to tell them we're one place, tell the other we're the other place, then we end up like being in a third place and just skating out of work. Or, you know, we'll mommy and daddy the shit. We get taught that very early.
But you have a sanity check, because I can't tell you how many times somebody be like, we're going to do this, and I look back and I see both my SARCs going, the fuck you are?
Yeah.
That's a horrible idea. Somebody's going to go to the hospital. It's like watching kids. You're like, you can't do that.
There's definitely a common sense, and we learn to thread the needle through both, like, you know, services, just because Marines forget we're actually in another branch of service. So we have different grooming standards, we have different like opinions and different like thought processes, and obviously that's why we're brought in there for safety structure and all this other stuff. Even though, you know,
I do have a caveat. I'm going to completely use that inaccurately, every first sergeant ever fucking does.
Can you orientate me to this caveat?
Yeah, that's right.
It's over there.
Okay.
We need a north-seeking.
Now, so I actually did not know that this was a thing until probably my last 2 years I was in.
Circumcision is normal, Patrick, but go ahead.
It is? Oh, fuck. I need a corpsman. I need a corpsman. No, so we were doing our battalion ball down here one time, and I saw 2 corpsmen that showed up wearing fucking Marine Alphas.
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that you can go, like, as a corpsman, that you can go full fucking green side, where you have to abide by Marine standards. You have to get Marine haircuts. You have to wear our fucking uniforms. I didn't know that was a fucking
That's
thing.
like
that you
the
could
cops
do.
that have task force officers. You don't ever admit that somebody is an ATF TFO, and
Yeah,
and
nobody
you
wants to
don't
admit they're
claim
ATF.
them. So when you see a guy in Marine regs, they're like, he's special.
He's a special one.
I've only seen 2 people actually do it in my entire career. So when you first check into an FMF unit, I think you have like 18 months to decide. It's 18, maybe it's only 30 days. You have a really kind of short time to decide whether you're going to do this or not. And once you do it, you're kind of married to that for your entire career.
Yep.
Or you cannot have the choice to opt back in. You can wear everything, so you get issued an entire Marine Corps sea bag minus blues, so it's up to the alphas, and then you are subject to Marine Corps inspections, and the grooming standards I actually think are a little bit stricter in USMC policy.
They're a lot.
So-
they're a lot more.
so they're-
and then at one point in time, at least when I was in, before they updated the tattoo policy, like corpsmen could get like, I had a corpsman that had fucking neck tattoos. And he'd been around for. Do you know a guy named Guidry, by chance? Like bald dude, like fucking sleeves, neck tattoos. Nah, probably not. He wasn't a special one. He was with me, so he wasn't. that special.
You wind up going through all this stuff to get to be a SARC. You get done with that deployment. You come back. You're essentially a PA with a fucking gun. When it comes down to it, with the capabilities that a SARC brings to the battlefield, when did it, like, I know it probably clicked when you were in Fallujah or Ramadi. When did it click that you're like, I'm this team's fucking special operations fucking medic? Was there an event, or did it just all of a sudden, did you have a junior SARC come up and ask you something and you're like, fuck, I'm the guy?
You know the level of responsibility that's like put on your shoulder pretty much coming out of SOCM. So I wouldn't say I had like a very aha moment, especially on my first team. Coming in, you normally have a senior SARC and then you have a junior. So I immediately came in, filled that junior role, and just was essentially just trying to survive my first workup. Just keeping your head above water, trying to learn all the MARSOC tactics and everything. My second team, upon return of that deployment off Alpha, I got chopped to Delta. That time they're having the optimization schedule, so they essentially were chopping a lot, and we were at first, so we got chopped pretty hard, and I ended up being the only SARC on the team. One of those billets they cut was the other SARC, so I was that SARC. I was the only option, and on the deployment, it was pretty much it. So that was kind of like now I'm a senior. Now it's on me. But I wouldn't say, that was probably my MARSOC, like, wow, this is all on my shoulders. My previous ones would probably be like Afghanistan, like, holy shit.
It's real?
It's real. I'm
Holy
actually
fuck, shit
in
got
charge
real.
of people's lives.
One of the crazy things about having a SARC, and this is from being on a team as an element leader, I had the senior SARC in my element. His priority, he is the subject matter expert when it comes to combat casualty care, prolonged field care, rescue care, all that stuff. But he's a shooter first, and that's kind of unique to SARCs because their priority, yes, they'll throw on their med pack on the back of their back, but they are kitted out and outfitted and employed the same way any other shooter in the team is. Some of the attachments, which are guys that come later in the workups, you kind of have to shield them from doing stuff because they have priorities they have to do. Your dog handler has to handle the dog. Your SIGINT nerd has to do the beeps and squeaks. Your human guy has to go fuck up briefs. You will have your SARC running in the actual stack. He is a shooter first. So to think that he has to now jump into a brand new team, he has to integrate with them seamlessly, and he has to be not only good at his tactics, he has to be great at his tactics, because there's no, hey, somebody else is going to get this. The SARC could be the 1 or 2 man going in the door. He could be the guy assisting the breacher. So a lot of people will sit there and be like, oh, you're a corpsman. Fuck no. You have an immense amount of responsibility when it comes to be a SARC, and every single SARC that we've had on our teams has always performed above most of the CSOs, and they have to in that case. So wind up doing these workups and deployments. You wind up doing the shifting. So usually a CSO would get done with his shit. He'd get back from a deployment. He had a ITP, UTP. He had an individual training portion and a unit training portion. SARCs and the EOD techs don't have that. As soon as they fucking get done, they may get like one course, and you jump right into another workup. There's no blowing off steam. There's no going to some downtime. So can you talk a little bit about how that impacts like your mental state, your family, interpersonal relationships when you're just going?
Oh, damn it. I was going to do the fucking transition there.
Sorry, man.
Running the show this time. Look at that.
I'm fucking retarded.
It's the casting couch.
It's the casting couch. It gets you.
Yeah, I mean, sum that up in one sentence, I would just say pure burnout. I've been in 5 different companies for 6 different seasons, and I started 11 years ago.
Holy fuck.
I have done a company hop every single time. There was only one time that I took a break and actually got an ITPs, when I actually stopped to get shoulder surgery. Pretty much used my recovery time as my ITP, and then hop back into the rotation. So EOD, even dog handlers, a lot of the support guys, I mean, it's getting better. But it was probably a good healthy chunk of the last decade that we were just turning and burning a lot of these support guys. H's as well, like those guys. Yeah,
guys.
You know what's this is totally not off topic, because I know how we all feel about fucking SEALs, but the fucking Terminal List, that show. I don't know if you guys have seen that, the one with Chris Pratt. He's a fucking SEAL.
Sarah's got a book that says the Terminal List.
It's really good. If you guys haven't seen it, definitely watch that, because that's what it touches on, like the burnout and the fucking rotation of all special forces, and how they're burning and turning them out, and they expect them to, get out and just fucking be normal.
So and you'll see in the MARSARC community, especially, just because that's what I know. Probably happening in the Greater Marine Corps. However, I think there's a lot of other options for B-billets and other entities way to escape.
Yes, it's called recruiting.
Yeah, we also just don't, a lot of us don't want to take that break. Mm-hmm. So we get caught up in the cycle, and we are in that team. That team is why we joined, the workup, the everything. We just want to do it. And then what we're finding is 20 years later, that these guys are just completely different dudes than when they started, and it's not. Sometimes, obviously, like the combat vets, we have a single event, like an IED, blast, rocket. We have an event to point to and be like, yeah, this is classified as TBI. This is why we have these behavioral shifts. What we're starting to see a little bit more is it's a lot of these stacking episodes, and it's because we are going back to back to back to back. And it's not even that, it's not even just the stress load. If you think about how much shooting is involved for the season, and then all those different weapon systems. One day we're, I'm doing a 240 range or 50 cal range. We're blasting off thousands of rounds, and then
the fucking op tempo.
The following day will be, a mortar range.
Carl G's fucking demo, yeah.
And so, we have these limits, you can only have, 4 or 6 Carl G rounds within a 24-hour period.
You could shoot 2, safety for 6.
Safety for 6, yeah. So but what that doesn't capture is the fact that the other day we also just inhaled a colossal amount of lead from a 240 range or, machine gun range, and then from there, and so we're stacking all these micro TBIs. So guys are, what's starting to look like burnout is actually kind of just a stack of some of the dangers of the job that can't be pointed to a single pinpoint type event. So we've done phenomenal work in the past 20 years as far as TBI initiation, obviously taken a lot from IED, OIF, OEF, and then a lot from the NFL type head trauma type stuff. But what we're not, or what we're kind of seeing is okay, well, you had kind of this TBI maybe 12 years ago, and we kind of captured that, and we knew who you were 12 years ago, but you're getting worse because you're still in it, and you're micro stacking on top of that. So and it's everything, you know. I mean, it's a whole holistic approach too, because if we look at rest cycles, nutrition, all this stuff, I mean, we're doing high performance athlete type work with just a complete lack of high performance athlete type rest recovery cycle, you know what I mean?
Lack of treatment.
It all adds up. What I'm trying to get at is like it all adds up like cumulatively. So it's not just like burnout and like yes, that is stressful, but also guys want to be there. So you know, it depends on how they interpret it. It may not be stressful for them, or maybe it only is stressful for like 2 seasons, but then like 5 seasons is too much. And so we're just kind of seeing a lot all kind of come together.
Well, so one of the things that I did when I was in the teams, I was a guest instructor for assessment and selection. Then I went to the schoolhouse. I mainly did special reconnaissance. When I got out, I wound up doing the contractor bit for assessment and selection. Watching how they select, how they look at people, and it's not just at MARSOC A&S, it's SFAS, it's the guys that are going through the pipelines, it's SARCs. You want individuals that can compartmentalize trauma. And that is that adaptability and effective intelligence under duress. So you now have made it even worse, because yes, you'll have somebody that's, again, stacking seasons, they're having all these different stimuli on their brain and physiological changes, and you're fucking breathing in frangible rounds and all this stuff. But then you also have that individual, and this is one of the innate characteristics that people use in assessment and selection, is can this individual compartmentalize this stuff and place the mission and team before himself? So now you have an almost, it's socially cannibalistic when it comes to I'm fine, there's nothing wrong with me. You're a pussy if you need to ask for help, and I don't give a shit about this baseline, I'll click through this thing. And you do that for 3, 4, 5 deployments, to include the workups, which are, if not the same, only harder, because you're here in the United States, you're doing a workup, but you can't get home. But guys will be like, no, I love this shit. When's my next school? Yeah. And they'll just eat it and eat it and eat it. And the problem is you'll compartmentalize that so much until shit happens, shit snaps, your body starts to fall apart. What you had as your characteristics that made you valuable on a team, like your physical fitness, your mental prowess, your adaptability, one of those is going to start to slip. And then everything kind of unravels at that point. But what you were saying is we've gone leaps and bounds. Can you talk a little bit about intrepid spirit and how the brain, how people are starting to be like, oh shit, this is fucked up, we need to start doing this?
Yeah, and intrepid spirit is, again, from my understanding, it's still a holistic approach. It's a round table. Essentially, it's a center for like a round table of providers and services to like kind of holistically approach you from every like expertise of the medical field to then kind of provide these treatments like long term to then get you back in the fight. We love intrepid spirit, great track record. Problem that we're seeing is guys want intrepid spirit at their 17-year marker after they've already done, the 5 seasons. It's a stop before retirement to then get the VA claim, or then to like get better right before they get out and they transition, right? So whereas intrepid spirit really, in like these types of programs, should be more of like a halftime like type procedure or like mentality. Like you go through your assessment selection, you make the team, do a rotation or 2, maybe then at that point, you catch schoolhouse orders, or you don't, and then you kind of take like this halftime like snapshot. All right, where am I at? How can I like prevent that degrade, or what am I slipping at, or maybe you're not, and what can I do to prevent that from like doing going forth for the next like 10, 15 years down the road. So whereas intrepid spirit is like I think that's more of its intent, or at least the concept from where it came from, like that's its intent. But however, it's a phenomenal treatment program. It just seems to be being captured for guys who have 17, 18, 19 years in, who are now like up at 3, like, and they're just like massively rocked from like just a 20-year career progression of this. And it's like, it shouldn't be on the tail end, because at that point now we're just trying to capture stuff for a VA claim, whereas like we're not actually trying to apply the treatments in like the proper place without your career to then maintain that succession, that ability to operate at 100% throughout like every single season. So there's a lot of different initiatives. Intrepid Spirit is one. We're doing a lot of like, you know, cognitive type enhancement, a lot of just various services that capture a lot of stuff.
I know it's Perez, the personal resiliency. There was a human performance over at the Army. There's Thor, and SOCOM has put a premium on trying to retain people, and before they can break, giving them that preventative maintenance holistically. You were saying treating you nutritionally, mentally, and socially.
Yeah.
If you had, and like there are guys that have been on here, and I asked them, I was like, hey, if you could give some advice, like what would Chris give advice for somebody that's one looking to be a SARC, and then life advice, like what's the best way to put it? Just basically a professional piece of advice and a personal piece of advice when all your experience is 17 years in the Navy in special operations. If somebody wants to be a SARC, can you give them a piece of professional advice and personal advice?
Yeah, so I'll start with the professional. So I kind of tell a lot of my juniors this, and a lot of like peers. Biggest thing I see, you don't see it so much in the SARC community, but the biggest issue that I see with a lot of these guys is some guys have the mindset that you can like stair step to success. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'll do this, and if I'm good at this, then I'll go up to the next level, and then from there, then I'll actually try what I want. And my best advice is like, just go for what you want. Like, if you set your mind to it, you can probably obtain it. But it's also just like the law of diminishing return. Like, if you set your sights on a single focus, you can actually focus and achieve that. Advice is like trying to achieve 5 different things and accomplishing none of them. So that blended right into life advice outside of the professional. But
real quick, would that be like, hey, I am considering taking a selection for a unit that is at JSOC?
Yeah.
Did you say that?
Yeah. So
guys think they need to get all these skill sets when in reality, if they think they're ready for it, go for it.
Yeah. And so I see that. Guys, regular corpsmen asking me like, oh, what can I do to set myself up for success to be a SARC? And it's just like, go, do it.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, again, people have different opinions. My approach has always been like, if you study the stuff too much, and if you take too much time to like understand it holistic, then you have an idea of what it is, and you can't like adapt to it. And that's one of the things you're being selected, like assessed on, is your adaptability. And you actually have a better ability to adapt if you don't have like an entire structure or a picture and an image of what you're actually going to do.
A clean slate versus bad habits.
Yeah, kind of
I shouldn't say bad habits,
but expectations.
Yeah.
So it's like the expectation management piece. So I've just even just, you know, some regular corpsman like, hey, I want to be a doctor. You know, should I be a paramedic first or a nurse first? It's like, absolutely not. Just go for it. Just go to med school.
Just fucking send it.
Because then you're going to get caught in like the riffraff essentially of what your primary goal is not.
I apologize, I cut you off. You were saying this is a great transition into the personal life portion of it.
Oh no, so I mean that's also that's professional and personal. The kind of the personal advice that is, I kind of blended the two into one answer, more or less. Yeah, professionally, that's as far as career progression in this. What I see is a lot of people. It's self-doubt, and you know, you just have to go for it. And yeah, you're not going to be successful at everything. Keep trying or try harder. But like I've seen not a lot of good case studies or like real life examples of people just trying to accomplish 5 things at one time. Like just a singular focus on one entity just kind of seems to be the pathway for success, because it's just what your mindset is set on and it's what you focus on. And then do that of what you want, not like this side gig that you're not going to be happy with anyway. You just wasted 5 years.
A big portion of team life was the social dynamic and your boys, everybody that was around them, and everybody that was intrinsically connected with them. So like friends of friends of friends, and you have a community. I think one of the things I talked about a few episodes ago was guys will get comfortable and they'll be like, these are my boys, we're going to live like this forever. And so it's shocking when you decide to take a leap of faith into another career, as you were saying, going for it. Like I remember I was a special reconnaissance instructor. I was finishing up my 3rd year at the schoolhouse at 14 years of active duty, and I was like, I'm going to go National Guard. I'm going to go do National Guard SF. I'm going to take Special Forces Assessment and Selection. And I had an overwhelming majority of these dudes being like, fucking do it. And then I had some guys that were like, you shouldn't do that. You should finish your time up and get your retirement and get your VA benefits. Weighing the opinions of people that you work with, your boys that have been there with you through thick and thin, should be pushing you to advance, should be helping you by being like, yo, this dude did this, why don't you talk to him? Getting the opinions of people that you care about. But one of the coolest things is I just got a text message from my old dog handler a couple weeks ago. I was at our EOD tech's retirement. He's going on to do great things at Bragg. The friendships you make in soft community and amongst the SARC community will last forever. And I think that's one thing that is not really talked about. They talk about you get to jump, you get to shoot, you get to do all this crazy training, but they never talk about like the brotherhood. And that's one thing that I think the recon community has up on MARSOC was that brotherhood. The 0321 paddle party, you are brothers forever. It's marked in your skin. We kind of emulated it a little bit because we had a lot of recon guys that came over. But like, can you talk just a little bit about like the homies, like guys that you may have deployed with, and they may be a world away, but you guys with all the technology still stay in touch?
Yeah, I mean, I still talk to guys from my first team, my second team, third team. It's you're never gonna lose sight of those guys, and that's why, at least on the SARC side, it's a very different dynamic than any other type of like provider. I'd say I'd probably reach that out to like combat medic, but especially in the soft community, like you go see your doctor, they have to look at a chart to see your name. Whereas like when you come to me, like I know your history, I know everything, I know your wife, I know your kids. It makes the job actually a lot tougher. Just sometimes to put those emotions aside and actually do what you think is right, even though it may not be the best thing, or maybe you're trying to cover, even though it's not like what holistically, health-wise, what he needs on the back end, like putting in certain,
It's a dilemma.
It is a dilemma, you know what I mean? It's a dilemma when I buy, my friend's can of dip.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, this is terrible for you and I'm causing you cancer, but at the same time,
yeah.
Yes, I need to do this because your stress levels are way too high, and I need, I'm your friend, so I'm going to bring your stress levels down. It's vice versa, too.
Hell yeah.
So that doesn't just go in the soft community, too. Like
that's everywhere.
Yeah. Rosen and Guidry, I know you both watch this. Those are my 2 corpsmen that I did a lot of shit with. Because like I told you before, I was in for 8 years, and like that, during that time frame, my last 6 years at Lejeune, those are who I had. I had Rosen and Guidry. I had other ones too, but those are the ones that I was always with that stuck out, and you guys are still with me, and that's how that shit rolls. Like, and I've got a lot of guys too that I'm still with that are like, whether they be down the street because they got out and like followed my lead of staying in fucking Wilmington for some reason. I still don't know why you guys did that. And then you got guys that move across the country, and those are a little bit harder to, you talk to them and stuff, but you don't see them, you don't anything like that, but you still like make those fucking phone calls to them late as shit at night and fucking talk to them. And that's just from like the line side of it, like the basic side of it. Like, I'm almost completely out of this conversation, but
I used to think tactics and techniques were what I would always be into, and evolving, how warfare evolves. And to be honest with you, it's the interpersonal relationships and learning how to make friends and maintaining those relationships. And that's honestly what has pushed me forward, switching jobs and switching career fields and going from active to inactive. But being able to reach back and just having those, a lot of people call it networking. I call it just being a friend of people. Chris, what do you have in the future? What do you have? I don't want to ask you a specific goal because that may be linked to like what you have career progression wise or working for other entities. But like, you've done this so far, and I'm guessing you're going to finish 20. What do you plan on doing? I know some guys are like, I want to be a pilot. I want to fucking start a homestead. I want to start a company. What's Chris thinking of your next big move?
Right, you also have a business degree, right?
Yeah. So that's...
Fuck, I didn't know that. I could ask you a bunch of questions. I'm over here like Sorry.
So, all right, so I'll just start off. I had my daughter in 2019 and then decided to give away my GI Bill to her in order to pay off her college so that way she could be set up for the future. That left me kind of a void, like, oh shit, I better do college right now.
Use fucking TA.
Otherwise, I am doing 20 years and then still paying for college on the outside. So I kicked my ass into gear and ended up getting my business degree. I made a huge decision to not kind of stick with the medicine. Not that I don't love medicine. I personally just didn't feel that was me. I'm kind of more of a next chapter type of guy.
Yeah.
I didn't really want to continue on into the civilian field, and as far as the medical field, so I chose business. All right, so I'm a guy who likes to kind of like turn the page. So after 20 years, I'm going to get into business. The reason I chose business is finance, economics, all that stuff is really my fascination. This goes back to a lot of what I was saying about like just kind of choose your passion. Like I had a blast doing SARC, but I'd say probably at this point in my life, late night, 10:30 on the phone in bed, like what are you actually reading? What is your interest? And right now for me it's kind of business and finance, so it's like kind of seems silly to keep this path and like ignore that, so I'm just gonna go for that in the future.
So one of the things I can definitely say about that, that's an amazing thing to get into when you get out. As you guys know, over the past 3 months, I've been networking a lot with other business owners, like veteran-owned companies, business owners in the area. And when you roll into that field, and if you go start your own thing, fucking Veteran Business Collective that's the fucking money. Get involved with them, because that is going to put you miles ahead of everybody else. You'll have all these fucking resources that are right there for you. They're just a bunch of us that went out and started their own shit, and then you get involved with them, and you need to fucking scratch my back favor here. You need blah 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 over here. Like you just talk to these guys, network with them, and it pushes your shit out there even further. So it's a really good fucking. I don't know who. Fucking. What's his name that started the Veteran Business Collective?
Chase.
Chase, yeah.
Well, so one of the things in tying all this together is we all have an expiration date, and it's either sooner or later. Everything will wind up having a date, and so enjoying the time you have and making the most of it, whether that be jumping out of a plane, whether that be putting a central line in somebody, what have you, depending on whatever your discipline is. You're going hard in the paint, you're doing everything you can, and then at some point you're going to shift gears. But we have that expiration date. So enjoying the amount of time that you can physically do an activity or a career, and then at the same time, you're not going to just stop and start something. You're doing a little bit of an overlap. So you started the business, and you're looking at business forward.
Yeah. So I'm in pure transition, so I have nothing. I don't have a business plan written. I'm right now essentially I do not know business, so I am learning it. So
That's that clean slate we talked
I'm
about.
in that straight student mode right now, just trying to observe. But you're absolutely right. As far as like the transition. Let me see. I'm just going with this. So
That's what we do here.
it's a holistic thing. Again, so we go hard to the paint 20 years, and then we think it's like game over, and then we're just gonna put all this stuff down on a piece of paper and then just like get out, and then that's just gonna magically transition us to the next phase if we choose that. And the biggest thing that I can suggest, and the thing that I've seen over the course of my career, is just it's we always say, oh, do the little things, but like do the little things for yourself too. Even if it's like just eating a better meal that night instead of grabbing Taco Bell on the way from home. Like it's just all those like little things that add up to 20 years of this like high stress, high octane like performance.
Compound reinvested.
Yeah, exactly. But in yourself. So
Yes.
I mean, if you can get a little bit of extra sleep, get that. If you can, if you do some of these holistic things, if you can just maybe take a cold shower every once in a while, reset like the nervous system. It's all those little things that can compound to do that. And that's also on like the medical side when we're talking about DOD. Like, it's far too often we're seeing all these guys come in at the 18-19 year marker and they're absolutely just gone at
Train
that
wreck.
point.
Yep.
And now we're trying to do treatments as opposed to like the preventative side, where we could have done some of these and maybe
Interventions.
these
lifestyle
preventatives. It's just lifestyle preventative stuff, and whether as simple as just and we have so much like available now as far as like holistic approaches, whether we're talking like isolation baths or like red light therapy, any of these things. It's documentation along the way too. Like go ahead, see your corpsman, get that treatment, but like keep working at that. Don't just like, oh, I'm gonna go get this documented and get in my med record, and then I'm gonna go make a VA claim like 17 years later. Like keep working the physical therapy, try to improve that, try to just better yourself, and like, because at the end of the day, like VA claims are nice, but like you're generally screwed up if you receive a VA claim. So the point
And then they
is,
don't like to actually treat you for that.
yeah, and then you're just stuck in the VA like medical system for life. It's like
It's a fun time.
yes,
Great.
yes, and dudes absolutely deserve it. But like, if you don't have that injury, like the goal is also to not get that 100%, to not be like 100% disabled, to actually be functional after a 20-year military career, so then you can like, I don't know, achieve something that you want, or like be that good husband, that good like father that's not insane and screaming at his children.
Absolutely.
And has an alcohol problem that we like see so common. So there's a lot of things that I just wish I could have done over myself, and then there's a lot that I've definitely seeing trends as far as like guys just not doing little things for preventative side, that I really just want to reach out to your audience and kind of say like that is a generalized message coming from someone SARC who's seen it.
Chris, everything you've said has been amazing. You've imparted a lot of wisdom, and coming from a horse's mouth. Anybody can write stuff down, but sharing your experiences, it means a lot. And I really hope everybody takes away from the conversation, both the professional piece, if you're looking to do something in special operations medicine, if you're just looking at stories, seeing what looks good, taking things that you can hear and understand and putting those in your little toolbox for the future. But I really appreciate everything that you brought to the podcast. I appreciate everything that you've done so far, because it's not fucking easy being a SARC. It's one of the hardest jobs in SOF, hands down. And I'd just like to thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
No, I definitely appreciate you coming on too. Like this has been a fucking pleasure. Like I had mentioned, since the first episode I ever did when I brought Hunter on.
We wanted to get a SARC on.
Yeah, I wanted to have fucking SARC, and then all of a sudden,
guys.
Oh fuck! Hell yeah! That's
shit.
dope. The SARC Jack. It's awesome.
Damn,
Can
baby.
you explain that real quick? just a little bit about, because I've seen all the 21s. They'll get the jack on their arm. Can you talk through what everything is on it?
So I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. The SARC jack. The only difference between the Recon jack and the SARC jack is just gonna be like
the Red Cross
behind it. But I'm gonna be honest. I'm a bad SARC because I don't know the Recon jack.
So one of the coolest things about the reconnaissance community is before we installed all these different
Organized autism. He knows everything.
different aspects of what they do, and they basically take a lot of tradition and it's imparted on here. So you have the K-bar, which is fighting utility knife. You have the paddle, which goes back to our amphibious reconnaissance days. You have the Navy parachute wings. You have a diver on the front. The diver is actually wearing twin 80s on his back. It's not the rebreather, which was scuba. And then you have one of the coolest things I think that's awesome as fuck is at the very top there's a Pathfinder symbol. It's the half wing with a torch, and on the back of it, what does that say?
That is through our last night ashore, drink to the foam. So that's part of the oh my god, why am I blanking?
It's because he put you
the damn Navy song.
The Navy song. One of the coolest things about the SARCs is when they finish their time on the teams, they have a paddle party, and I can tell you, my buddy's paddle party, Creepy, we had to put him in a fucking bump helmet because he was so drunk he was falling over. And it was another SARC that said, hey, put a helmet on this guy because he was like falling over. And then I was shit-faced, and my ex at the time picked us both up, and we both wound up in the bathtub with a cold shower. So,
fuck yeah.
You'll never forget the people that come into your lives, and it's absolutely amazing. I think you're gonna fucking do great things in the future in business, and I really appreciate everything. And we really appreciate this, man.
Of course.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. Especially the long ass drive down here right after work.
Dude. Yeah, that's almost an hour drive.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. All right, ladies and gents, this is going to conclude episode 25. Last on the casting couch.
Last on the casting couch.
Yep.
Sloppy last.
Sloppy last.
So, real quick, I just want to make a quick announcement. I'm sure you guys are aware, especially if you follow us on the Instagram. I'm hosting an event. It's for Hope for the Warriors Foundation. It's going to be on August 19th, so mark your fucking calendars. We're going to have 15 fucking vendors. All veteran-owned companies going to be out there from 12 to, it'll start wrapping up around 4, but we're kicking it until 8. Got live music, catered food, a food truck that's going to be coming in at about 5. And this is going to be going down at Eagles Dare, who is also the owner is another Raider.
It's soup. Yep.
So make sure to mark that shit on your calendars. Come out and see us. We're going to be doing raffles. All the companies are going to be out there. They're donating something from their company for these raffles. Our goal is to reach $6,000 for the foundation. So definitely come out, see us, have a good time, grab a brew, grab some food while you're fucking there, and donate to the cause. So, yep. Aside from that,
you're going to run into people. It's going to be a great time. You can unwind. If you don't know people in the area, you can meet up with other veterans in the area. If you're not a veteran, you can show up and just meet some really weird people that have some crazy ass stories. Overall, Joe is going to be running Eagles Dare. He also does Taco Baby and runs Poorhouse. You'll have a bunch of people there from everything from business to just guys that are in the team. So it's a good opportunity to meet new people. I always struggled with that when I would go to a bar, get shit-faced, and not remember who I met. But it's a good idea.
We've all been there.
Definitely take advantage of it. There's going to be ample opportunities to meet people, network, stuff like that.
Yep, and then you get to around 3:30 when we do the raffles, you get to hear my mug get up on the microphone, talk a little bit, and hopefully I'm not too shit-faced at that point. We're also going to have a guest speaker. I'm not going to tell you who it is. You just have to find out if you come. Aside from that,
if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. Just remember that.
Best fucking closing outline ever. I would point to the Marine Corps flag, but now we don't have that anymore. So, all right, ladies and gents, Chris, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much.
Of course, thanks.
Until next time. Next time, we're going to be in a whole new fucking location. We're going to be actually doing the real podcast thing.
Peace in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, peace in the Middle East. Oh wait, we'd be out of a job.
Gifted as a SARC, and he spent a good chunk of his time stitching up crunchies and like staring at dudes' dicks in the teams. He was just.
There's nothing wrong with that. The roundabout 20 on pump.
Oh, we are recording. Okay, we can cut some of that stuff out.
No, that's when we use the shorts.